The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Among the distant stars, something moved slowly through the void. It was huge, dark and silent. The massive ship looked dead. Its metal surface was covered with burn marks and holes. Pieces of torn armor floated nearby like forgotten memories of an old battle. Captain Vextar stood on the bridge of his exploration vessel, the Stellar Wind. His 4 eyes studied the readings on his screen. The alien captain had blue skin that shimmered under the soft lights. His crew moved quietly around him, checking their instruments. "Captain, we have found something," said his first officer, Krolanoth. The younger alien's voice carried excitement. "A large vessel, sir. It appears to be human." Vextar's eyes narrowed. Humans. The galaxy had not seen them for almost 50 years. Most people believed they were all dead, wiped out in the Great War against the Hegemony Coalition. Yet here was proof that at least one of their ships had survived. "How large?" Vextar asked. "Nearly 2 kilometers long, sir. It matches the design of their military vessels from the war records." The captain moved closer to the main screen. The human ship filled most of the display. It looked like a sleeping giant, dark and motionless. Small debris fields around it suggested it had been damaged in battle long ago. "Any signs of life?" Vextar asked. "None, sir. No energy readings, no heat signatures, no communications. The ship appears completely dead." Vextar touched a control panel with one of his long fingers. The image zoomed in, showing more details of the human vessel. The name on its hull was barely visible through the damage, UES Silent Guardian. Inside the human ship, systems that had been quiet for decades began to stir. Deep in the vessel's core, an artificial intelligence called Phoenix detected the approaching alien vessel. The Eye had been waiting for this moment for 47 years. Phoenix began running through its protocols. First, it checked the status of the crew. All 87 humans were still alive in their cryogenic pods, their bodies preserved in frozen sleep. Their vital signs were stable. Their minds were ready. The AI sent a gentle signal through the ship's neural network. In pod number 1, Commander Jake Martinez felt the first touch of awakening in his mind. His consciousness began to rise slowly from the deep sleep that had held him for nearly 5 decades. Jake had been 28 when he entered the pod. Now, technically, he was 75, though his body had not aged a day. He was tall and strong, with dark hair and calm brown eyes. Before the war, he had been a teacher. During the war, he had become something else entirely. Phoenix continued its careful awakening process. In pod number 7, Lieutenant Amy Brooks began her slow return to consciousness. She had been the ship's tactical officer, one of the best strategic minds in the human fleet. Her red hair was still bright, her green eyes still sharp though. She had not opened them in decades. The AI monitored her brain patterns as she slowly woke up. Amy had volunteered for this mission, knowing she might never see Earth again. She had left behind a family, friends, a life she loved. But she believed in what they were doing. On the alien ship, Vextar made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party," he ordered. "That vessel may contain valuable technology or resources. If the humans are truly extinct, their knowledge dies with them. We should preserve what we can." Krolanoth bowed his head. "Yes, Captain. How many should go?" "Take 12 soldiers and 2 scientists. Be careful. Human technology can be unpredictable." "Sir, should we inform the Hegemony Council about this discovery?" Vextar paused. Finding a human ship would be big news across the galaxy. It might also bring unwanted attention from other species who wanted to claim whatever was inside. "Not yet," he decided. "First, let us see what we have found. Then we will decide what to report." Deep inside the Silent Guardian, more systems came online. Chief Engineer Pete Collins felt his pod beginning the warming cycle. He was a small man with clever hands and a quick mind. Before the war, he had built bridges and buildings. During the war, he had learned to build weapons. Pete's pod was connected directly to the ship's engineering systems. As he slowly woke up, his enhanced neural implants began syncing with the vessel's computers. Information flowed into his mind: power levels, system status, damage reports that were 47 years old. But the damage reports were fake. The Silent Guardian was not broken. It was hunting. Dr. Lisa Grant felt consciousness returning to her body like a warm tide. She was the ship's specialist in alien psychology and warfare tactics. She had spent years before the war studying how different species thought, how they fought, how they could be defeated. Lisa had volunteered for the mission because she understood something that most humans did not. The war was not over. It had just moved to a different battlefield, one that required patience instead of guns. The Zephyrian boarding party prepared their equipment. They wore full environmental suits and carried scanning devices to analyze whatever they found. Their weapons were charged but set to low power. They expected to find nothing more dangerous than old computers and empty rooms. They had no idea that they were being watched. Phoenix analyzed every detail of the approaching aliens: their suits, their weapons, their behavior patterns. The Eye compared this data to files that had been collected during the war. These were Zephyrians, a species that had joined the Hegemony Coalition early in the conflict. The AI remembered everything about them. Their culture valued honor and exploration. They were brave but cautious. They had never developed truly effective weapons because they had evolved from prey animals on their home world. Like most species in the galaxy, they had learned to fight only after they reached the stars. Humans were different. Humans had been fighting since before they discovered fire. Captain Ryan Blake felt his pod beginning the final awakening sequence. He was the commander of the Silent Guardian, a man who had led his crew into what everyone believed was certain death. He was 42 years old, with gray hair and steady blue eyes that had seen too much war. Ryan had been a soldier all his adult life. He understood that sometimes winning meant looking like you had lost. Sometimes the best way to hunt was to pretend to be prey. The Zephyrian boarding craft attached itself to the Silent Guardian's hull with a soft thud. Cutting beams began working through the outer armor, opening a hole large enough for the alien soldiers to enter. Phoenix watched through hidden sensors as the first alien stepped into the ship's corridors. They moved carefully, their lights cutting through the darkness. They spoke to each other in their own language, discussing what they saw. The AI understood every word. It had been listening to alien communications for 50 years. Sergeant Kelly Price felt her combat systems coming online as her pod completed its warming cycle. She was the ship's security chief, enhanced with experimental military augmentations that made her stronger and faster than normal humans. Her short blonde hair framed a face that looked young and innocent. The aliens would learn that appearances could be deceiving. The boarding party split into 3 groups. One headed toward what they thought was the ship's bridge. Another moved toward the engine rooms. The third began exploring what looked like crew quarters. They had no way of knowing that every step they took was being recorded, analyzed, and prepared for. The Silent Guardian was not just a ship. It was a trap that had been waiting nearly 50 years to be sprung. And now, finally, the waiting was almost over. The first Zephyrian soldiers stepped through the hole they had cut in the Silent Guardian's hull. Their boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The corridors were dark and cold, filled with the silence of a ship that had been dead for decades. Commander Krelinoth led his team deeper into the vessel. His scanner showed traces of old atmosphere, long since leaked away into space. Emergency lighting flickered weakly in some sections, powered by backup systems that had somehow survived all these years. Spread out, Krelinoth ordered his soldiers. Stay in contact, report anything unusual. The aliens moved through the ship like ghosts exploring a tomb. Their lights revealed walls covered with strange human writing and symbols. Pictures showed groups of humans in military uniforms, smiling faces that belonged to people who had been dead for half a century. What the aliens did not know was that many of those same faces were slowly waking up just a few levels below them. Commander. Jake Martinez felt his body coming back to life. The warming process was almost complete. His muscles, frozen for so long, began to respond to his commands. His enhanced neural implants connected to the ship's systems, flooding his mind with information he could see through the ship's sensors. He could hear the aliens talking to each other as they explored. He could feel every system on the Silent Guardian responding to his mental commands. The ship was not just his vessel. It was part of him. Jake had been chosen for this mission because of his unique abilities. During the war, he had been part of an experimental program that connected human minds directly to ship computers. The process was dangerous. Many volunteers had died or gone insane. But those who survived became something new, something more than human. Phoenix, the ship's AI, spoke directly into Jake's mind. The voice was calm and patient, like an old friend who had been waiting for him to wake up. "Welcome back, Commander." Phoenix said, "I have been monitoring the situation. We have 12 Zephyrian soldiers and 2 scientists aboard. They believe we are a derelict vessel." Jake smiled, though his body was still waking up. "How long have they been aboard?" 17 minutes. They are being very careful. They have found no signs of life yet. Good. Continue the awakening protocol. Bring the others online slowly. We do not want to trigger any alarms. 3 levels above, the Zephyrian scientists were examining what they thought was a human computer terminal. The screen was dark and appeared to be completely dead. They tried connecting their own equipment to it, hoping to extract data about human technology. The moment their devices touched the human systems, Phoenix felt them like insects crawling on its skin. The AI had been waiting for this. Under wartime protocols, any attempt to access ship systems by enemy forces was considered an act of war. Phoenix now had legal permission to defend itself, but the AI was patient. It had learned patience from its creators. It would wait for the right moment. Lieutenant Amy Brooks felt her tactical systems coming online. Her pod was hidden in what looked like a storage room, one of dozens scattered throughout the ship. The aliens had not found it yet. They were still exploring the upper levels, thinking they were alone. Amy's mind connected to the ship's weapon systems. The Silent Guardian carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but its real weapons were more subtle. Amy began reviewing the psychological profiles Phoenix had compiled on their visitors. Zephyrians were proud but careful. They valued honor and courage, but they also feared the unknown. They had joined the Hegemony Coalition because they believed in strength through unity. They thought the war against humanity had been necessary to bring peace to the galaxy. Amy knew better. The war had been about fear. The other species had been afraid of what humans might become if they were allowed to grow and spread. So they had decided to stop humanity before it became too powerful. They had made a mistake. They had made humanity angry. Chief Engineer Pete Collins felt his consciousness fully return. His neural implants synced with every system on the ship. He could feel the engines, the life support, the artificial gravity, the weapons. All of it was running on backup power, designed to look like failing systems to anyone who scanned them. But Pete knew the truth. The Silent Guardian was at full operational capacity. It had been pretending to be broken for 47 years, waiting for someone to come close enough to touch. The aliens had taken the bait. Pete began running diagnostics on all systems. Everything was perfect. The engines could bring the ship to full power in seconds. The weapons could fire at maximum capacity. The defensive systems could withstand almost any attack. The ship was ready for war. The question was whether the crew was ready. They had been asleep for so long. Would they remember their training? Would they remember why they had volunteered for this mission? Dr. Lisa Grant opened her eyes for the first time in 47 years. Her pod was located in the ship's medical bay, disguised as a standard medical storage unit. The aliens had walked past it twice without realizing what it contained. Lisa's specialty was understanding how other species thought and felt. During the war, she had studied captured alien soldiers, learning their fears and weaknesses. She had helped design psychological weapons that could break an enemy's will to fight without firing a single shot. Now she had new subjects to study. The Zephyrians moving through her ship were providing her with valuable data. Their movements, their conversations, their reactions to what they saw. All of it told her about their mental state. They were nervous but excited. They thought they had found a treasure. They believed they were safe. They had no idea they were being hunted. Captain Ryan Blake felt his command systems activate. His neural implants connected him to every part of the ship, every member of his crew, every system under his control. He was the brain of the silent Guardian, and the ship was his body. Ryan had been a soldier for 20 years before the war ended. He had fought in 12 battles, led men and women into combat, watched friends die for causes they believed in. He had volunteered for this mission because he understood something that many people did not. The war was not over. It had just changed. Instead of fighting with guns and missiles, they were fighting with time and patience. Instead of winning battles, they were positioning themselves to win the war. The aliens above them thought humanity was extinct. They thought the galaxy was safe from human expansion. They thought they could relax and enjoy the peace they had bought with human blood. They were wrong. Sergeant Kelly Price felt her combat systems fully activate. Her enhanced muscles and reflexes came online, making her faster and stronger than any normal human. Her tactical implants connected to the ship's security sensors, showing her exactly where each alien was located. Kelly had been a police officer before the war. She had joined the military when her city was attacked by alien forces. She had seen what the enemy did to human civilians. She had sworn an oath to make them pay for it. Now finally, she had her chance. The Zephyrian boarding party had found what they thought was the ship's crew quarters. Rows of pods lined the walls, each one containing what appeared to be a sleeping human. The aliens gathered around them, studying the technology that had kept these people alive for so long. Incredible, one of the scientists said. These preservation systems are far more advanced than anything we have seen. If we could understand how they work, should we wake them up? Asked one of the soldiers. Sub-Commander Krelinoff considered. The humans in the pods looked peaceful, unaware of what was happening around them. They were probably refugees from the war, people who had been fleeing when their ship was damaged. Not yet, he decided. First, let us secure the ship. Then we will decide what to do with the survivors. He had no way of knowing that the survivors were already deciding what to do with him. Phoenix monitored every alien on the ship. The AI had been analyzing their behavior patterns, learning their individual characteristics, preparing detailed profiles of each one. When the time came to act, the crew would know exactly what they were dealing with. The awakening protocol was nearly complete. In a few more minutes, all 87 crew members would be fully conscious and ready for action. The Silent Guardian would transform from a sleeping giant into a hunting predator. The quiet war was about to become very loud. The Zephyrian scientists worked carefully at the human computer terminals. Their equipment beeped softly as it tried to break through the security systems. After an hour of work, they finally managed to access some of the ship's data files. What they found made them stop and stare at their screens. Sub-Commander, one scientist called out, his voice shaking slightly. You need to see this. Krelinoff walked over to the workstation. The screen showed a list of files with strange human names. Most of the text was in human writing, but their translation software was slowly converting it to Zephyrian. "What is it?" Krelinoth asked. "These are not technical files, sir. They appear to be ... psychological profiles. Analysis reports on different alien species, including our own." The sub-commander's 4 eyes focused on the screen. He could see detailed information about Zephyrian biology, culture, military tactics, and weaknesses. The files were incredibly detailed, as if the humans had been studying his people for years. "This cannot be right," Krelinoth said. "These files are dated from before the war ended. How could the humans know so much about us?" The scientist opened another file. This one contained detailed maps of Zephyrian space, including the locations of military bases, supply lines, and civilian colonies. Information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. "Sir, there is more. Much more." Deep inside the ship, Captain Ryan Blake was now fully awake. His neural implants gave him access to everything the aliens were seeing and reading. He watched them discover file after file of classified information. Phoenix spoke in his mind. "They are accessing the intelligence files. Should I stop them?" "No," Ryan replied mentally. "Let them see. It is time they understood what they are dealing with." The captain's body was still in his pod, but his mind was connected to every system on the ship. He could feel his crew waking up around him, their minds joining the network that linked them all together. Soon, all 87 humans would be online and ready, but Ryan was in no hurry. Let the aliens learn the truth slowly. Let them understand what humanity had really been doing for the past 50 years. Commander Jake Martinez felt his pod beginning its final opening sequence. His enhanced body was ready for action, his tactical systems fully online. Through the ship's sensors, he watched the aliens in the computer room, growing more frightened with each file they opened. Jake had helped create many of those files during the war. He had been part of the intelligence teams that gathered information about enemy species. The humans had been very good at learning about their enemies. Perhaps too good. The Zephyrians had just opened a file labeled Project Deep Sleep. As they read, their translator worked to convert the human text. What they learned made them step back from the computer in shock. The file explained that humanity had not been defeated in the war. Instead, they had chosen to disappear. Hundreds of ships like the Silent Guardian had been sent out into space, each one carrying carefully selected crews in cryogenic sleep. The ships were designed to look damaged and dead while remaining fully operational. "Sleeper ships," the scientist whispered. "They sent out sleeper ships." Krelinoth felt a cold fear growing in his chest. "How many ships?" The scientist searched through more files. "According to this, hundreds, sir, maybe thousands, spread throughout the entire galaxy." Lieutenant Amy Brooks felt her pod opening. With a soft hiss, she took her first breath of ship air in 47 years. Her body moved smoothly as she sat up, her enhanced reflexes making her feel more alive than ever. Through her neural connection, she could sense the fear growing in the aliens above. They were starting to understand that they had not found a derelict, they had found a trap. Amy had been one of the planners for the sleeper ship program. She knew exactly how many vessels had been sent out and where they had gone. The aliens were right to be afraid. Humanity had positioned itself throughout known space, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. That moment was now. The Zephyrian team found another file. This one labeled Species Analysis, Galactic Survey. Inside were detailed studies of every major species in the galaxy. Their strengths, their weaknesses, their psychology, their military capabilities. But it was the conclusions that made the aliens truly afraid. The human analysis showed that every species in the galaxy had evolved as prey animals that later became predators. They had developed flight responses, herd instincts, and defensive behaviors. When they reached the stars, they had learned to fight, but fighting was not natural to them. Humans were different. The files explained that humans had evolved as persistence hunters on their home world. They were pack predators that hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They had no flight response because they had never been prey. They were born hunters. "Sir," the scientist said, his voice barely a whisper. "According to these files, humans never developed defensive instincts because they never needed them. They were always the hunters, never the hunted." Chief Engineer Pete. Collins felt his body fully activate as his pod opened. His enhanced nervous system connected to every mechanical system on the ship. The silent guardian responded to his thoughts like a living creature. Pete began bringing systems online, one by one. He was careful to make it look like normal power. Fluctuations that might happen on an old, damaged ship. The aliens would not realize what was happening until it was too late. The ship's engines began spinning. Up to standby power, the weapon system started their charging sequences. The defensive shields prepared to activate. All of it happened silently, invisibly. While the aliens continued reading their files, Dr. Lisa Grant stepped out of her pod and stretched her enhanced muscles. She had been studying alien psychology for most of her adult life. Now she had the chance to test her theories in real time. Through the ship's internal sensors, she watched the Zephyrians react to what they were learning. Their body language showed growing panic. Their voice patterns indicated extreme stress. They were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. Lisa activated her psychological warfare systems. Hidden speakers throughout the ship began playing sounds just below the threshold of alien hearing. Frequencies that would make the Zephyrians feel uneasy without knowing why. Subtle noises that would trigger their ancient prey instincts. The aliens found a file called Operation Lazarus. As they read, they learned that the human defeat in the war had been carefully planned. Every lost battle, every destroyed colony, every human death had been calculated to make the galaxy believe humanity was finished. Meanwhile, the real human military had gone underground. Sleeper agents had been placed in alien governments. Spy networks had been established on every major world. Hidden bases had been built in empty star systems. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. "We have to contact the fleet," Krullenov said, his voice shaking. "Captain Vextar needs to know what we have found." But when he tried to use his communication device, nothing happened. The ship's hull was blocking their signals. They were trapped. Aboard the Silent Guardian with their terrifying discoveries, Sergeant Kelly Price emerged from her pod like a predator, waking from sleep. Her enhanced body moved with deadly grace. Her combat systems were fully online, ready for action. She had been waiting 47 years for this moment. Through her neural link, she could sense her fellow crew members coming online around her. 87 of humanity's finest warriors, all enhanced, all trained, all ready to remind the galaxy why humans were feared. The aliens had found a final file, labeled "The Truth About Humanity." Inside was a message recorded by the human military command just before the sleeper ships launched. The message was simple but terrifying. "We are not refugees. We are not victims. We are predators who have learned patience. We have studied you, learned from you, prepared for you. When we return, it will not be as the humans you remember. It will be as something new, something evolved, something that has had 50 years to plan your defeat." Captain Ryan Blake's pod opened with a soft click. He stood up slowly, his enhanced body moving with controlled power. His neural implants connected him to every system on the ship, every member of his crew, every sensor and weapon, through the ship's communications array. He could sense other sleeper ships throughout the galaxy beginning to wake up. Hundreds of vessels, thousands of enhanced humans, all responding to the same signal. The quiet war was over. The real war was about to begin. Above him, the Zephyrian boarding party huddled together in growing terror. They had come looking for salvage and had found something much worse. They had awakened humanity's final weapon, and that weapon was humanity itself. The lights on the Silent Guardian began to flicker and then steadied into a warm glow. The ship's corridors, which had been dark and cold for decades, suddenly felt alive. Air began moving through the ventilation systems. The artificial gravity grew stronger and more stable. Sub-Commander Krulinath felt the change immediately. The ship around him was waking up, and he finally understood that it had never been dead at all. "Get back to the shuttle," he ordered his team. "Now, we need to leave immediately." But when his soldiers tried to return to the hole they had cut in the hull, they found their path blocked. Heavy blast doors had silently slid into place, sealing off their escape route. The aliens were trapped inside the human ship. "Sir, the doors will not open," reported one of his soldiers. "Our cutting tools are not working either. Something is jamming our equipment." Captain Ryan Blake stepped out of his pod and walked calmly through the corridors of his ship. He was tall and moved with the quiet confidence of a man who had never lost a fight. His enhanced body felt strong and ready after the long sleep. Through his neural connection, he could sense every alien on his ship. 12 soldiers and 2 scientists, all scared and trying to find a way out. He knew exactly where each one was located and what they were doing. Ryan spoke out loud, knowing that Phoenix would carry his voice through the ship's communication system to every alien on board. "Welcome to the Silent Guardian," his voice echoed through the corridors. "I am Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earth Fleet. You are now prisoners of war." The Zephyrians froze when they heard the human voice. It spoke their language perfectly, with no trace of accent or uncertainty. The captain knew their language better than many of their own people did. "That is impossible," Krulinath whispered. "The humans are all dead." "We have been waiting for someone like you to find us," Ryan's voice continued. "For 47 years, we have been patient. Now our patience is over." Commander Jake Martinez walked through the ship's corridors, his enhanced senses taking in every detail. His neural implants showed him the location of each alien, their heart rates, their stress levels, their growing panic. Jake had been enhanced with experimental technology that made him faster and stronger than normal humans. But more importantly, it made him connected to the ship in ways that few people could understand. He was not just the commander. He was part of the vessel itself. He found the first group of alien soldiers trying to break through a blast door with their energy weapons. The weapons had no effect on the advanced human armor. The soldiers looked up as Jake approached them. "Your weapons will not work," Jake said in perfect Zephyrian. "This ship was designed to fight an entire fleet. Do you really think your small guns can damage it?" The aliens stared at him in shock. Jake looked young and healthy, not like someone who had been asleep for 50 years. His calm smile was somehow more frightening than any weapon. "How do you speak our language?" one soldier asked. "We have been listening to your communications for decades," Jake replied. "We know your language, your culture, your military codes, your weaknesses. We know everything about you." Lieutenant Amy Brooks activated the ship's main display screens throughout the vessel. Images appeared showing the locations of other sleeper ships throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of them, all beginning to power up at the same time. "Behold the truth," Amy's voice announced over the ship's speakers. "Humanity did not die in the war. We simply went to sleep. And now we are waking up." The screens showed human ships decloaking near major alien worlds. Ships that had been hidden for decades, waiting for this moment. The galaxy was about to learn that the war had never really ended. Amy walked calmly through the ship's corridors, her enhanced reflexes making her movements smooth and predatory. She had been one of the best tactical officers in the human fleet, and 50 years of planning had made her even better. She found the alien scientists huddled in the computer room, Still trying to understand what they had discovered, they looked up as she entered, their 4 eyes wide with fear. "You wanted to learn about human technology," Amy said, speaking in their language. "Let me show you what we have learned." Chief Engineer Pete Collins brought the ship's main engines online. The massive drives had been silent for decades, but they responded immediately to his commands. Power flowed through every system, bringing the Silent Guardian to full operational status. But Pete's real work was more subtle. He began broadcasting on frequencies that only aliens could hear, sounds that triggered fear responses in their nervous systems, vibrations that made them feel sick and disoriented. The ship itself became a weapon, attacking the minds of the intruders before it would destroy their bodies. Pete walked through the engineering sections, checking systems that had been maintained by automated programs for 50 years. Everything was perfect. The ship was ready for war. He found a group of alien soldiers trying to access the ship's power core. They scattered when they saw him, but there was nowhere to run. The corridors rearranged themselves around them, trapping them in a maze of metal and light. "Did you really think you could shut down a human warship?" Pete asked them. "We built this vessel to survive anything the galaxy could throw at us. Your little tools are like trying to stop an earthquake with a feather." Dr. Lisa Grant activated her psychological warfare systems throughout the ship. She had spent years studying how different alien species reacted to stress and fear. Now she put that knowledge to use. Hidden speakers played sounds just below the threshold of hearing. Lights flickered in patterns that triggered anxiety in alien minds. The air itself carried chemical traces that made the Zephyrians feel hunted and desperate. Lisa walked through the ship like a scientist studying her test subjects. She observed how each alien reacted to her psychological attacks. Their body language, their voice patterns, their decision-making abilities all deteriorated under her careful assault. She found Sub-Commander Krolanoth trying to rally his troops in what had once been the ship's mess hall. The alien officer was struggling to maintain control as his soldiers became more and more frightened. "You are wondering why you feel so afraid," Lisa said as she entered the room. "It is because we are using your own instincts against you. Deep in your genetic memory, you remember what it was like to be prey. We are reminding you." Sergeant Kelly Price moved through the ship like a hunting cat. Her enhanced muscles and reflexes made her faster and stronger than any alien on board. But she did not need to use violence. Her very presence was enough to terrify the intruders. Kelly had been a soldier and a police officer. She understood fear and how to use it as a weapon. The aliens could sense her predatory nature, even when they could not see her. She was the thing that their ancestors had run from in the dark. She found the last group of alien soldiers barricaded in what had been a storage room. They had built a defensive position using cargo containers and were trying to contact their ship. "Your communications are being blocked," Kelly told them through the door. "No one is coming to save you. You are alone with us." Captain Ryan Blake walked to the ship's bridge, followed by his senior officers. The command center came alive as they approached, screens lighting up and systems responding to their presence. On the main display, they could see the Zephyrian mothership waiting in space outside. Captain Vextar was probably wondering why his boarding party had stopped reporting in. "Phoenix," Ryan said to the ship's AI. "Open a communication channel to the alien vessel. It is time we introduced ourselves properly." The screen flickered and showed the bridge of the Zephyrian ship. Captain Vextar appeared, his 4 eyes wide with surprise when he saw the humans. "I am Captain Ryan Blake," Ryan said in perfect Zephyrian. "Your people are now my prisoners. You have 30 seconds to surrender your ship, or I will take it by force." Vextar stared at the screen in shock. You are supposed to be dead, all of you." Ryan smiled, and it was the cold smile of a predator who had been waiting a very long time for this moment. Death was just another disguise. he said. "We have been very patient, but our patience has limits. Choose quickly, Captain. Surrender or die." Throughout the galaxy, other sleeper ships were making similar contacts with alien vessels. The quiet war was becoming loud very quickly. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Vextar stared at the human on his screen. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. The humans were supposed to be extinct. The galaxy had celebrated their defeat 50 years ago. Peace had finally come to the stars. But the man, looking back at him, was very much alive, and he was not alone. 30 seconds, Captain Ryan Blake repeated calmly. "Choose now." Vextar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at their screens in shock. Some were checking their weapon systems. Others were trying to send emergency signals to the Hegemony Council. "You cannot threaten us," Vextar said, trying to sound brave. "You have one ship. I have an entire fleet behind me." Ryan's smile grew wider. "Phoenix, show him the truth." The main screen split into dozens of smaller images. Each one showed a different star system throughout the galaxy. In every system, human ships were appearing. They decloaked near alien. Worlds emerged from asteroid fields, rose from the surfaces of dead moons. Hundreds of vessels, all identical to the Silent Guardian. All carrying crews that had been sleeping for 50 years. All fully armed and ready for war. "We have been waiting," Ryan said. "Positioning ourselves, learning, planning. You thought you had won the war, but you had only won the first battle." On his own ship, Sub-Commander Krelenov and his remaining soldiers had gathered in the ship's main corridor. They were surrounded by humans who moved like predators stalking prey. The aliens clutched their weapons, but they knew the weapons would not save them. Commander Jake Martinez stood before them, his enhanced body radiating controlled power. Behind him were other humans, all looking impossibly young and strong despite having been asleep for decades. "You want to know what humanity's final weapon is?" Jake asked the terrified aliens. "It is not a bomb or a gun or a ship. It is us. We are the weapon." Dr. Lisa Grant stepped forward, her voice calm and scientific. "Your species evolved as prey animals that learned to fight. You developed fear responses, flight instincts, herd behaviors. When you reached the stars, you had to learn warfare because it was not natural to you." She gestured to the humans around her. "We are different. We evolved as persistence hunters. We are pack predators. We do not have flight responses because we never needed them. We were never prey. We were always the hunters." Lieutenant Amy Brooks activated a holographic display showing the history of human evolution. Images appeared of early humans chasing large animals across vast plains, never stopping, never giving up, following their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. "This is what we are," Amy explained to the aliens. "We do not stop. We do not surrender. We do not forget. When something hurts us, we follow it until we can hurt it back." The aliens watched the images with growing horror. They saw humans climbing mountains, crossing oceans, surviving in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. Always moving, always hunting, never giving up. "The war taught us that we needed to be smarter," Amy continued. "So we learned. We studied every species in the galaxy. We discovered your weaknesses, your fears, your breaking points. And then we planned." Chief Engineer Pete Collins showed them technical displays of the sleeper ship program. Hundreds of vessels had been sent out during the final days of the war, each one designed to look damaged and dead while remaining fully operational. "Every human death in the war was calculated," Pete explained. "Every lost battle was planned. We made you think you were winning while we prepared for the real war." The aliens saw maps showing human ships positioned throughout the galaxy. Near every major alien world, hidden in every important star system. Humanity had spent 50 years infiltrating the entire galaxy while pretending to be extinct. You celebrated your victory, Pete said. You built monuments to your triumph over humanity. You told stories about how you brought peace to the galaxy. But we were watching, we were listening, we were waiting. Sergeant Kelly Price stepped closer to the alien prisoners. Her movement was fluid and predatory, like a hunting cat approaching its prey. The aliens instinctively backed away from her. Do you want to know the truth about the war? Kelly asked them. You did not defeat us. We let you think you had defeated us. There is a difference. She gestured to the walls around them, which now displayed images from throughout the galaxy. Human agents in alien governments, human spies in alien military forces, human sympathizers in alien populations. We have been among you for 50 years, Kelly revealed. Some of your own people work for us. Some of your leaders take orders. From us, we have been preparing the galaxy for our return. The images showed alien politicians who were secretly human agents, alien military officers who passed information to human intelligence, alien scientists who had been recruited by human operatives. Your security services never found us because they were not looking for us, Kelly continued. They thought we were dead. Dead enemies cannot infiltrate your governments. Captain Ryan Blake's voice echoed through both ships as he addressed all the aliens present. The war was never about territory or resources. It was about survival. You tried to destroy us because you were afraid of what we might become. On the screens, images showed the progression of human technology and society before the war. Rapid expansion, incredible innovation, unstoppable growth. The aliens had seen humanity spreading through the galaxy and had decided to stop them. You were right to be afraid, Ryan admitted. But you made a mistake. You thought you could kill us all. You thought you could make us extinct, but you cannot kill an idea. And humanity is more than flesh and blood. We are an idea that refuses to die. The displays showed what humanity had become during their 50 years of hiding. Enhanced humans with improved strength, speed, and intelligence. Advanced technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. Military strategies refined. Through decades of planning. We used the time you gave us, Ryan explained. While you celebrated your victory, we evolved. We became something new, something better, something that learned from its mistakes. Dr. Lisa Grant addressed the psychological aspect of humanity's transformation. We studied every species that participated in the war against us. We learned how you think, how you fight, how you can be defeated, and we designed ourselves to be your perfect enemy. The screens showed detailed analysis of alien psychology, culture, and military doctrine. Humans had spent 50 years learning everything there was to know about their enemies. Every species in the galaxy shares the same fundamental weakness, Lisa revealed. You all evolved as prey animals. Deep in your genetic memory, you remember what it was like to be hunted. We know how to trigger those memories. As if to demonstrate, the ship's systems began playing subtle sounds and frequencies that made the aliens feel increasingly uncomfortable. Their stress levels rose. Their decision-making abilities decreased. Ancient fears awakened in their minds. This is what we learned, Lisa continued. We do not need to destroy you with weapons. We can defeat you by making you defeat yourselves. Captain Blake's final revelation came as images filled every screen throughout both ships. The images showed the current status of human forces throughout the galaxy. Not just the sleeper ships, but hidden bases, secret factories, underground cities. We never left the galaxy, Blake announced. We went underground. We built a shadow civilization while you thought you ruled the stars. And now we are ready to take back what was ours. The aliens realized the terrifying truth. Humanity had never been defeated. They had chosen to disappear, to let their enemies think they had won while they prepared for the real war. This is humanity's final weapon, Blake said as human ships throughout the galaxy powered up their weapon systems. Not our technology, Not our ships, not our guns. Our weapon is what we are. We are the species that does not give up. We are the hunters who never stop hunting. The quiet war was over. The galaxy was about to learn why some species were born to hunt and others were born to run. And humanity had been running out of patience for 50 years.